Welcome back to our next edition of the CBB Review Studio podcast. I am Dan Siegel, joined as always by my co-host Ben Anderson, and today we are doing our second of the 4 regional previews of this March Madness bracket in 2023, and we're doing the East today, so you can see it on your screen right there if you're watching on YouTube. Ben, honestly, this is not saying much, because I think I am having trouble with predicting everything. That's the nature of March Madness, but this might be the region I have the best feel on. What do you think?
I don't know about that, if I'm being honest. I see 3 games off the top of the bat where I'm not confident in the least. So let's get into it. I'm interested to hear what you think.
All right. Number 1, Purdue. Number 16, Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson. First off, shouts to Texas Southern. At 14-20, they are the worst team record-wise in the NCAA tournament since at least 2000. That's when I look back till. They surpassed 2005 Oakland, who was 13-18. Texas Southern just owns the SWAC, gets in the first 4, loses in the first round or the playing game, and Purdue will move on, right?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. While Texas Southern may have the worst record, Fairleigh Dickinson is actually the worst rated team by metrics. So really, this is not the battle of the Titans here. Purdue's going to move on easy.
All right, this one a little bit more interesting. We got number 8 Memphis, number 9 Florida Atlantic. This is a quality 8 versus 9 matchup. Ben, break it down for us.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me. I personally think that okay, here's the thing. Florida Atlantic hasn't beaten anyone. Right, we can just say that they're 2-1 in quad 1, but not all quad 1 wins are created equally. Right, the best one is maybe Florida or one of UAB or North Texas, depending on how you do it. I understand why they're a 9 seed. I don't like that the fact that these two teams have to play each other, because I think there are other 8 and 9 seeds or even 7 seeds that Florida Atlantic is better than. I'd rather see them out in a different way. But what I will say is that I like Memphis in this matchup because of DeAndre Williams specifically, not Kendrick Davis, but DeAndre Williams. The bigs of Florida State are pretty shallow in terms of depth, and they also foul there at a high rate. So I think that Williams can do his work in the paint, and Memphis will move on, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And that's a good point, actually, because I kind of noted that as well. But overall, I just really like Memphis because of those 2 guys you mentioned, Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams. Now, I want to give Florida Atlantic credit because they didn't have a lot of great wins, but they had a lot of solid wins, because the Conference USA is not a bad conference. That's what people didn't understand when comparing, you have mid-major Charleston, you have mid-major Florida Atlantic, they have the same record. Well, the conferences weren't created equally. So I don't think Florida Atlantic is a fraud. I don't think you really think that either, but just a bad first-round draw. I don't think they have that it factor on offense like Memphis has. So I think Memphis moves on. You think so as well?
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, if we want to talk about who really got a bad draw, let's move on to the next team right here.
Yeah.
Oral Roberts versus Duke. Fantastic game. Terrible for both teams, in my opinion. Both teams.
Yeah. So this is like the exact case of what I was talking about with Matt yesterday. Don't pick your upset mid-major school that you like to upset a power conference school that's a high seed until you find out who that power conference school that's a high seed is. And man, just an unfavorable draw for pretty much both teams, but I think more so for Oral Roberts, because Oral Roberts is a team that is designed for March. Not only do they have Max Asmus, who carried them to the Elite 8 a few tournaments ago, but they have that 7-3 stretch big Connor Vanover, who was a starter for Arkansas. I'm sorry, no, there was Sweet 16 for Oral Roberts, right?
Yeah, it was Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'm thinking of St. Peter's, but yeah, they have Connor Vanover, who was a starter for Arkansas when they played Oral Roberts in the tournament, ironically. So he's got some big game experience, but Duke is just so hot right now. They won the ACC tournament. They won a bunch of games down the stretch in the ACC. I am fascinated by that matchup between Kyle Filipowski and Vanover, but I I can't pick against Duke right now. It's a tough game, but I can't pick against Duke right now. I'm thinking the 5 seed advances in this case.
I agree with you. After Vanover, the tallest player that Oral Roberts has in the rotation is 6'7", which is going to create major problems when you're talking about whether it's Filipowski or Lively or even Mark Mitchell, right? Whoever they're playing against that isn't matched up on Vanover, what's that going to look like? And Vanover is also prone to fouling as well as a big man who's the shot blocker, right? That's just how it is sometimes. I just think that Duke has finally put both the talent and the experience together in a way that is pretty scary for anyone to play.
And then we move on to 4 Tennessee against 13 Louisiana. Now, this is an opposite of the game I just said before. Don't pick the power conference team. Don't pick the high seed that you think is going to get upset until you see who they're playing because, well, I wasn't a big fan of Tennessee headed into March. I'm not a fan of Louisiana at all, to be honest. Louisiana just doesn't move me. I've seen their defense get carved up in the one big game that they played against Texas. They gave up triple digits in that game. But even Louisiana Tech put up 88 on them. Southern Miss put up 82. Troy put up 80. And Tennessee, does not have the greatest offense themselves. But they could shut down any offense. Louisiana relies a lot on that inside-out game. They run their offense through Terrence Lewis. But do you know what Tennessee is allowing from three-point range this year?
They're number one in the country. It's something like 22% or 24%, something like that, right?
26.2, but point
yeah,
stamps.
No, it was lower than that beginning, but yeah, it's some crazy number.
Yeah, so I'm picking Tennessee.
No, I agree with you. Frankly, if this was any other 13 seed, we'd have much more of a conversation. But since it's Louisiana specifically, and to play Tennessee, you have to be, in my opinion, elite at one thing, whether that's offense or defense, and then you can beat them pretty handily, especially without Sakai Ziegler. But since they don't have that, I'm going to go with the Vols here.
All right, so first 4, we agree on all of them. Let's see if we differentiate a little bit here. We got Kentucky and Providence, the 6 versus the 11. What do you think about this one? I'll let you go first.
Sure. So shout out Sean Vinsel, I believe his name is, at Hoops Insight. He's a pretty good follow for Kentucky stuff on Twitter. He had listed before Selection Sunday a list of teams that Kentucky would want to play and wouldn't want to play. Essentially, what you're looking at is Kentucky does well against defense-first teams, but struggles against teams with high-scoring offenses. Now, Providence has really not been great away from home. This is why they're only an 11 seed, but they can put up points when they need to. They've done it against UConn. They've done it against Marquette, both at home, but still. I am going to go with the Friars here. I think that they have enough. It's the Bryce Hopkins game. If you're familiar, Bryce Hopkins, what started at Kentucky, now is in Providence with Ed Cooley. I think they'll have enough firepower just overall to handle the Wildcats. And I think Ed Croswell actually matches up pretty well with Oscar Tshiebwe there too. So I'm going with Providence as an 11/6. We got to have an upset in there somewhere.
Maybe. I'm going with Kentucky, though. I want to say I'm worried about, just in general, not necessarily this matchup. I want to say I'm worried about Kentucky because they run their offense through a big and Oscar Tshiebwe. And, I've been talking about Purdue, who runs their offense through their big and Zach Edey, but it's not nearly as reliant with Kentucky. They have Wallace, they have Reeves, who aren't consistent, but they could take over a game, and that's important. And I look at these two teams, I think particularly Providence is trending in the wrong direction. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. I think this game is close. I think it's, in terms of closest game, I'm not sure what the spread is on this one, but I'd imagine it's very close to a pick'em. Probably, I would say the closest to a pick'em in all of these matchups, including the 8-9. But I'm going to take Kentucky in a close one.
That's fair. That's totally understandable.
All right, Kansas State, the 3 seed against the 14 seed Montana State.
Yeah,
I
think Montana State isn't built to beat Kansas State, unfortunately. I think they're a good team, but they just don't. Their offense is pretty mediocre, and Kansas State really has had a good defense the entire year. Surprisingly, in my opinion, I don't think in my mind I think of Kansas State as a good defensive team, but analytically they're really strong. I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough points to keep up, especially if Marquise Newell or Keontae Johnson, one of those two, goes off, which is likely to happen.
Yeah, Montana State's just a really bad offensive team. They're 156th in efficiency, 284th in three-point shooting. Might be close for a good 12, 14, 15 minutes, but I just feel like it's one of those that Kansas State just pulls away. And the amount of time that a game is played, like in a 40-minute stretch, I don't think Montana State could keep up. So I agree. And then we move on to a 7 versus a 10. Michigan State and USC. Okay, finally I'll pick the slight underdog here. I'll go USC. They've had some impressive wins this year. Auburn early on, where Auburn was a really good team early on, and then there was UCLA later on, which still a very good team. They have competed tough in some games otherwise. I think the other game against UCLA was right down to the wire. I'm also just not in love with the Michigan State offense and the way they operate. Yes, they could shoot the three-point ball extremely well. Joey Hauser, Tyson Walker, but a lot of mid-range, a lot of tough shots that they take. USC also could really attack the rim really well. They're 8th in field goal percentage there, and they got the former Memphis Tiger, the former top recruit or one of the top recruits in the country, and Boogie Ellis finally playing to his full potential in year 4. So I like USC in this one. I matchup aside, I like the way they play a little bit more.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really like either of these teams that much. Just like I'm gonna have to pick one of them. It's just sort of neither of these teams are really my style. But if I'm looking at this, Boogie Ellis is the best player on the floor, and we all know that guards win in March. So I'm gonna go ahead and take USC as well. I think I'm gonna agree with you here, but I'm not super excited about it. I could easily be convinced the other way, probably.
Okay, and then finally we got number 2 Marquette against number 15 Vermont. Do you think this one will be a cakewalk for Marquette?
I do actually. Vermont in particular has been abysmal on the road or away from home, that is, especially offensively. And you got to have a high-powered machine offense to beat Marquette, in my opinion, especially when they're rolling like this. So I like the Golden Eagles big here.
That's a fair point because Vermont is a team that I felt like if they could get hot, they could keep it close. But that away from home stat is definitely significant. So they just don't have the solution to stop the Marquette offense. So
yeah.
All right. So we got all our first round picks. 2 questions at the end here. First off, we have a Memphis versus Purdue potential second round matchup. Can Memphis be the ones to knock them off? Because I'm going to say if I'm picking in my bracket, I'm picking Purdue to win, but Memphis can give them a run for their money. What do you think?
In my bracket, I'm picking Memphis. And I think that the guard play just favors the Tigers in a way that Purdue hasn't really seen. I don't think the Big Ten is known for its guards. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I think of when I think of that conference. I think of Trace Jackson Davis or Zach Edey or Hunter Dickinson, right? You don't really think of the guards here. And I think that the freshmen of the Boilermakers are going to have a little bit of trouble. DeAndre Williams, like we've mentioned before, is a grown man. He can at least deal with Zach Edey. If you want to give him 30, that's fine. But I think that Memphis is really strong. And if I'm going to pick an 8 or 9 over 1, it'd be the Tigers.
All right. I'm going to say, transitioning to our Elite 8 prediction, I'm going to say definitely Purdue loses before they get to the Elite 8. I'm actually going to pick Duke to be the ones that knock them off. Purdue has struggled particularly with tough defensive teams that can match their length and muck up the game, and Duke really has that. I think it's going to be Marquette over Duke in that Elite 8 matchup. Marquette has a great offense, and they're just super hot. Tyler Kolek, Cam Jones, a great backcourt. And I just think Duke eventually runs out of gas because if there's a team that could outshoot them, might be a little bit difficult for them to keep up. And I don't see them completely just running through to the Final Four like I think a lot of people do. So that's my Elite 8. Marquette the 2 seed over Duke the 5 seed. Marquette's
We're actually on the same page here, which means, of course, that it's going to be like Kentucky, Purdue, or something that's in the Elite Eight. But I also have Marquette over Duke. I think that Duke's offense has been suspect at times, even late in the season. You saw it against Virginia, to be completely honest, right? They weren't really firing on all cylinders there. But I do like them to get past Memphis. I think they're just a team that can match that talent. And then I have Marquette over Kansas State in the Sweet 16, and then the Golden Eagles going to the Final Four. I just really think they've been on a hot streak lately.
Yeah, I like the Marquette path for sure. Not that I think Marquette is one of the 4 best teams in the country, but I like their path. So
absolutely,
that will do it for today's episode. We still have the Midwest and the South to do. We did the West, so check that one out. We did the what we do.
It was the West.
Yeah, we did the West. So check that out if you have not already. Thanks for watching and listening, though, and take care.